It's a new week, so welcome to a brand new episode of Pixel Peek. Thanks for joining us.
Things are running pretty smoothly this week, for us at least.
Game developers and publishers, on the other hand, not so hot, indicating by this week's news stories.
Epic Games stumbled on the latest Fortnite update for cross-platform play, raising concerns about PC players having significant advantages against console players.
And Call of Duty Mobile launched with an astounding 35 million players in its first 3 days with a similar issue, with more of a focus on emulating mobile on PC. Competitive players will do whatever it takes to get a leg up in first-person shooters.
It's not all bad, though. Sony Interactive Entertainment CEO Jim Ryan officially announced the PlayStation 5 during an interview with Wired, alongside some new and not-so-new features slated for the next-generation console.
Speaking of PlayStation, game reviewer Bianca Bortoluzzi zoomed in on the PS4 version of the Sojourn, a highly stylized puzzle game about the environment for this week's game review.
And for this week's analysis segment, we have our PC analyst, Walker Peters, to talk about up-and-coming streaming services like Mixer and how they compare to the streaming giants that are YouTube, Twitch, and social media platforms.
We have a lot of content to share with you this episode, so let's get started. I'm Sydney Thompson.
And I'm Laird Davis, and we hope you enjoy your stay here
on Pixel Peek.
In a Twitch stream last week, streamer Dylan Rudism Beck took immersive gaming to the next level. To get the most out of his Untitled Goose Game experience, Rudism turned himself into the Trickster Goose, complete with a blood-stained bill and wings. The costume seen on stream wasn't just for show, however. Each part of Rudism's costume is set to control a different part of the in-game goose. To move, he waddled in place with flippers and controlled the goose's directions with a joystick. To flap the goose's wings, Rudism need only flap his own wings. To honk at unsuspecting NPCs, all the streamer had to do was speak into his voice-activated beak. It's certainly an immersive way to play Untitled Goose Game, but Rudism admitted multiple times during the stream that it's a physically exhausting way to play the game. In the weeks since Untitled Goose Game has launched, it has turned into a viral hit, selling over 100,000 copies in the first 2 weeks, which is pretty good for an independent developer title with very little marketing. In the game, you play as a trouble-seeking goose that waddles around town, causing trouble to human villagers and checking off objectives on a goose to-do list. Players have enjoyed causing goose trouble in the game and have had even more fun making memes out of the chaotic bird.
In a recent update patch for Fortnite, Epic Games pushed an update to the matchmaking system in an attempt to make matches more competitive and to match players with those of similar levels and skill sets. Almost as soon as the patch was released, however, Epic received complaints from players about the matchmaking system. There were concerns about how effective the new system would be, but the main concern was how multiple platforms were being matched together. The majority of complaints were in regards to PC and console players being matched together in standard modes. Crossplay has been encouraged among console players for basically every multiplayer title, but when PC players are thrown into the mix, it's possible that they could be reaping benefits like higher frame rates and more precise controls, giving them the edge over console players. Epic Games responded to these player complaints about the new matchmaking system in a recent blog post, reassuring players that the system takes platform into account and that it would continue to monitor the system to ensure fair matches. For the time being, Fortnite players on console can only hope that Epic Games is staying true to their word and not pairing them up with players with triple the frame rate using a keyboard and mouse.
Psyonix, the developer of Rocket League, is introducing a new blueprint system to replace loot boxes within the game. The blueprints will be obtainable after Rocket League matches, and players will be allowed to create an item for a set price. The difference between blueprints and loot boxes is that loot prints will be transparent and allow players to see what they're purchasing. It is also stated that the reward for purchasing this new type of drop will not be obfuscated as it is with a traditional loot box system. Blueprints will become available in Rocket League this December and will be added in large features update for the game. The update will also replace the keys currency with a currency simply called credits. This new currency will be able to be used to purchase blueprints and other digital items that may be added to the game. Psyonix had removed randomized loot boxes back in August in light of the gambling controversies, not unlike Epic Games' approach with Fortnite. In Season 3, Episode 2 of Pixel Peek, we discussed the industry's shift away from loot boxes following numerous scandals and public backlash. The debate has remained in Europe and the UK, where there has been a discussion on whether loot boxes should qualify as gambling. But at least games are slowly catching on to their addictive and negative nature as time goes by.
For players who want to compete in the $3 million FIFA circuit, registration is closed for right now due to a data breach that affected more than 1,600 FIFA players during sign-up for the event. Players who attempted to sign up were shown the information of other players who had already successfully signed up on the registration page, including their emails, platform, birthday, personal IDs, and registered location. EA Sports promptly took down the page half an hour after it launched and posted a statement on Twitter acknowledging the breach and that they were contacting those that were impacted. EA Sports apologized in a statement saying, "Player privacy and security are of the utmost importance to us, and we deeply apologize that our players encountered this issue today. Registration is supposed to reopen in the next few days." Despite this breach, this year's FIFA entry is still immensely popular, outselling the latest highly anticipated titles such as Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening and Borderlands 3. The FIFA franchise hasn't seen much controversy since its introduction in 1993, so hopefully any more incriminating events like a privacy breach will be prevented in FIFA's future.
In the past month, we've already seen Mario Kart make its mobile debut with Mario Kart World Tour. But last week, another gaming icon entered the mobile market with quite a splash. Call of Duty Mobile released on October 1st and has already had more than 35 million downloads worldwide, and that does not even include China. Published by Chinese conglomerate Tencent, Call of Duty Mobile is free to play and brings the popular Battle Royale mode from Black Ops 4, along with other classic multiplayer modes and fan-favorite maps from older installments in the Call of Duty series. Some of the game's success comes from how it plays and how it is controlled, making effective use of the touchscreen to provide a good player experience. However, there have already been complaints about players using alternative control schemes to get the upper hand, like using controllers or mobile emulators to run the game on PC, so that they can use a mouse and keyboard. What makes matters worse is that the game's publisher Tencent is the one who is providing the emulator service being used to gain that unfair advantage. This service is called Game Loop, and it allows you to play mobile games including Call of Duty Mobile on your computer. Playing with a mouse and keyboard in FPSs provides a huge advantage over touchscreen controls, but developer Tie-Dye has yet to announce any plans to remove emulator support, since it can be proven to be quite difficult to pull off. We will continue to follow this story as it develops on our social media accounts at Pixel Peek AppTV.
On October 4th and 5th, the Pokemon Company hosted a 24-hour livestream about Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield, promising surprising content. It started at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on Saturday and showed a mysterious forest with glowing mushrooms, a now confirmed location within the Galar region called Glenwood Tangle. On average, about 25,000 people viewed the stream at any given time during the 24 hours it aired. It could often be mistaken as a still image, but every now and then you would hear a cry of a Pokemon, or Pokemon would walk on and off the screen. This would only happen about every half hour. As the stream continued, a lot of older Pokemon showed their faces on screen as a way to confirm their presence in the Galar region. Towards the end of the stream, 2 new Pokemon appeared on the stream, taking on the form of a unicorn with a colorful mane and tail. Many have theorized that this new Pokemon might be the Galarian form of Ponyta, one of the original 150 Pokemon. Galarian Ponyta has not been confirmed on social media by the Pokemon Company, but cries of Ponyta were heard during the stream. Whatever it was, this unicorn Pokemon was the only new Pokemon to be shown during the entirety of the 24-hour stream. Live streams have become a popular way to promote products, especially in the entertainment and gaming industry. While the stream had a big turnout, not everyone was pleased. Viewers vented through their frustration on social media, saying that most of the Pokemon showed were older Pokemon that the fans already knew of, when they wanted to see new unannounced Pokemon. The stream also had no accompanying text or commentary to provide any more details about the game, but at least Pokemon fans got a laugh out of the countless memes that formed during the stream on social media.
Ever since Project Scarlet's announcement at E3 this year by the Xbox team, hardware has been on Sony fanatics' minds. It's an exclusive in an exclusive press release to Wired, Sony Interactive Entertainment CEO Jim Ryan put PlayStation fans' minds at ease and officially announced Sony's plans for the next generation of consoles, the PlayStation 5, coming during next year's holiday season. Before this announcement was published, there were a lot of unofficial reports about the PS5, also from Wired. The specs for the PS5 were leaked over the summer, eliminating most of the surprise from the announcement. Ray tracing, spatial audio, a much faster SSD drive, 8K capability, and more were reported to be part of the new system back in July. But the Wired's latest review revealed two new features: game-centric UI improvements and an altered controller design with variable resistance trigger buttons and a larger microphone. As for collectors and more traditional gamers, yes, it still has an optical disc drive. It's a long way off, but the PlayStation 5's release will make gaming faster, more immersive, and better looking than ever before. Why they didn't utilize State of Play presentation for a flashier reveal, however, we'll never know. That's all for this week's news. Now on to game reviewer Bianca Bortoluzzi, who will be looking at the Sojourn for this week's game review.
If you're down for a game that is as puzzling as it is beautiful, I've got a game for you. The Sojourn is a challenging puzzle game to keep you stuck level after level. Join me as I get increasingly more frustrated with the Sojourn. The first thing that attracted me to the Sojourn was the graphics and beautiful art, which did not disappoint at all throughout the entire game. The game was developed by Shifting Tides and published by Iceberg Interactive. It is an insanely thought-provoking puzzle game with a very mysterious storyline. The game was fun, and I did enjoy playing it. There are 4 main chapters to get through in which you experience vastly different worlds. There was no background to what was going on, or really any storytelling besides these blindfolded statues that you would see from time to time with glowing necklaces. But one can infer that it is about going through life and realizing that not everything is as bright and beautiful and peaceful as you expect it to be. Sometimes there's darkness that we have to work through. You follow these glowing lights that guide you through beautiful landscapes, all while solving difficult puzzles. Some proved to be a bit more frustrating than I thought they'd be, but none were impossible to figure out. Sometimes they just took some time away from the console. When I first began playing the game, I expected this intricate story, especially with how they opened it up with a family and a little boy growing up through life. But, as I mentioned before, it wasn't that obvious. You went from landscapes like a castle, to a world underwater, to a giant glowing tree hidden underground, and then the sky? I don't know. I'm typically pretty good with symbolism, but even I was pretty stumped. My favorite part of the game, however, was the artwork. It was gorgeous, and I feel like I've been saying this for the past few games, but seriously breathtaking. I mean, the graphics nowadays are insane. I really know how to pick these games out, huh? However, I would like to get a bit more into detail about some of the things I really enjoyed about this game and some of the things I really did not enjoy. 2 things I did enjoy from the game besides the artwork was the actual gameplay and the music score. The music score was really calming and helped me during times where I became frustrated. It wasn't repetitive, and when I play puzzle games like this, I'll typically turn on my own music and just go for it. But this time around, I was pretty comfortable with just chilling with the in-game music. I felt like I was studying. I listen to really calming music when I study, something that keeps me focused and energized, but not too sleepy and bored. So, it did help with figuring out puzzles, which you need to be focused for. As for the gameplay, it was very simple and really easy to grasp. I could put this game down for months and be able to come in still knowing how to play this game without forgetting any important details. It was a bit repetitive. Some of the puzzles felt like one from previous levels, but that didn't happen that often. Some were definitely much more difficult than others, but I found that once you get into a groove, you can really figure out the puzzles much faster than you think. Although the game was good and I enjoyed the puzzles, nothing really stood out to me. It wasn't a game that I would say really grasped my attention for long. As I've mentioned, the storyline is weird. It's as if there's barely a whisper of a story. Like, it's there, you can hear it and see it, but there's no depth or structure to it. You can only do so many puzzles before you're like, okay, hold up, what's going on? Why are there shining lights? What's with these statues? And trying to piece the story together. It seems as if there's a war going on and the rich are stealing money from the poor and kids are being taken from their parents and there's like a wizard and magic. There's definitely a main character, but so many of the statues look similar, it's often confusing to differentiate. It's all beautifully drawn, but that doesn't take away from the fact that there's definitely something missing. There were also times where some serious frame dropping occurred. Every time you enter a new level, the world is created right in front of you, like it's being built. which is when I found the frame dropping occurred the most. It's also a bit ridiculous how often you can fall off the map. There would be moments where I would hardly be near the edge, and I would move a little and suddenly be plummeting to my death, which was not fun, and really frustrating. But overall, it was a fun and calming game, even if I did say I was a bit frustrated at times. I can see myself playing it more. There are challenges I didn't do that I can go back and finish. I just wish that if they did want more story elements involved, they would add more things than just some blindfolded statues and vague quotes about visions and life and beauty being in the eye of the beholder. This isn't a game worth binging in one sitting, but a game that takes time. Maybe one you can play with friends and get frustrated over puzzles with together. I would rate this a good game, especially if you like puzzle games. It was challenging and really beautiful, but if you really care about story and plot and whatnot, this might not be the game for you.
The Sojourn was a good puzzle game, and if you want a challenge, try it out, but it was lacking story and explanation for a lot of what was going on. And that's all for this week's game review, so I'll pass it on to Kristen to talk to our PC analyst, Walker Peters, for this week's analysis.
With the rise of esports and live streaming, streaming platforms have become an influential business that could be the difference between failure and success for developers. Here to talk about the various streaming platforms and their influence is PC analyst Walker Peters. Welcome back to the show, Walker.
Glad to be back.
Okay, so what are the most popular streaming platforms right now?
Twitch is by far the largest streaming platform with about 70% of the market share belonging to Twitch. It's the default, it's what everyone will go to first. And the second largest is YouTube Gaming at about 17% of the market share. Newcomers like Mixer have about 3%, and they're nowhere near Twitch in terms of viewers or streamers.
So how is Twitch faring currently?
Twitch is doing fine. It hasn't experienced the growth it's had in the past when the streaming industry was still new and exciting, but it's going steady, and barring any major mishaps, it should continue to do as well as it's been doing.
So how are the other streaming platforms besides Twitch doing?
They're not necessarily thriving, but they're still doing all right. YouTube Gaming has its sort of niche of streamers who don't want to use Twitch and have their own dedicated viewer base, whereas newcomer Mixer is trying to get a foothold in the industry by signing exclusive deals with popular streamers such as Ninja.
So can you talk about Ninja's controversial move to stream exclusively on Mixer?
Ninja stated that it was more of a personal reason than a monetary one, and he had become upset and unhappy with the way Twitch had handled his streaming career. The move to Mixer gave him more personal freedoms and opened the door for more opportunities, such as his book deal that we'll be reviewing next week and a personal clothing line designed by him.
So how will the development of exclusive contracts affect the market?
It's a little early to tell, but we could very easily see something like the current video and TV streaming wars, where streaming platforms fight over large streamers with good viewer bases as sort of draws to bring people to their platform.
So how much of a competitor is Mixer to other streaming platforms like Twitch?
Right now, it's worth keeping an eye on, but they're not really a threat. It's always worth keeping an eye on your competitors to see what you could be doing that they are and you aren't, but it's going to be a while before Mixer really starts to take over Twitch's user base.
So, who is winning the game streaming battles?
Twitch by far. They're so far ahead of the competition, even YouTube Gaming, that it's not really much of a contest right now. Like I said, things can always change. Netflix was, of course, once the streaming platform for movies and TV, but for this moment, Twitch just doesn't really have any serious competition.
Okay, that's all we have time for today. Now over to Laird and Sydney to wrap up this week's live show.
And that's going to be about it for this week's episode of Pixel Peek. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope you enjoyed it.
And thanks to everyone who has given feedback since we went live. Going live really has become like clockwork, and that's a good thing.
Well, I'm throwing a wrench in it for our next episode. I've been reading up on Ninja's book, and I have a lot to share about it. So let's just say Bianca is getting a little bit more time for her next game review while I learn how to become a pro gamer.
Sounds cool, but you know that there's no episode next Tuesday, right?
Oh. then we may be taking a break next week, but we'll go back to being live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. online and on cable starting at October 22nd. Tune in at watchapptv.com or on Skybest channels 20 or 1020, Spectrum channel 198, or on our campus television channel 23.3 if you're here at App State.
Even if you're not up here in the mountains with us, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at PixelPeep_AppTV for smaller news, announcements, and more.
This episode was jam-packed, and it would be nothing without our fantastic crew. Thank you to writers Jalen Curitan and yours truly, PC analyst Walker Peters, game reviewer Bianca Bortoluzzi, and producers Caitlin Halley, Tanner Mazzell, and Michael Annabole for another week of incredible content.
Thank you so much for watching, and we hope you enjoyed your stay here on Pixel Peak.